On the phone, we have the newest member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a gentleman who had to wait way too long to find out he got inducted, former Raider punter, Ray Guy. How you doing today?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good. It's Friday, the sun's shining, and hopefully it'll be a little warmer.
Wait a second. What's your idea of cold? Some of us has been spending the winter in the Midwest where it's been nothing but snow and single digits.
Here, man, in this part here, that's cold. And besides that, my old body, it don't function like it used to, so I've got to at least keep it at a certain warm temperature.
Well, I remember a guy who didn't have much body fat out there in a Raiders uniform. So
I didn't have a lot of body fat, and the blood flowed pretty good and kept me warm. But over the years, things do change, have a tendency to change a little bit. And I know it's hard for us to make them adjustments, but hey, you got to do what you got to do.
How does a guy from Georgia end up at Southern Mississippi for college?
Oh, that was very easy. I had a sister coach that actually played here, back when Pi Van was the head coach, and he just asked me one day about, when I was doing visitations to different schools and all that, would I, like to try Southern Miss? I said, sure. So I came out here one weekend, and then, I just fell in love with the program. I fell in love with the campus and everything about it, and it wasn't a hard choice, because I'd get to come right in. Of course, I had to play freshman football then, but it was agreed too that I would actually play baseball too. So it wasn't a hard choice. It was kind of a small school at that time, probably 7,000, maybe 8,000 students, and they were on a mission, you might want to say, to rebuild and make Southern's program and school in general bigger and better, and and I felt like that I could be a part of that. And so I came to Southern and have no regrets, and I'm still here. I work through the athletic department, university, and alumni association, and giving back and trying to help increase and make it bigger and better than it is now. And I'm in loving every minute of it.
Now, coming out of high school, you got drafted to play baseball. Any temptation to follow that sport?
Really. Not really. I guess, and it might sound a little awkward compared to what the younger generation is doing now. They're kind of, I don't know, they start at a young age and they're kind of trained themselves and are being trained to graduate to that higher level in athletics, and their goal is, one day to make the pro ranks, and which is a very good way to look at things. That gives you something to shoot for, to work for, and all that. But I wasn't really, in that case, I wasn't really that way. I mean, I enjoy playing anything, whatever sport it might be, and so I didn't weigh one against the other, or kind of compare one to the other against each other. I just took what came and went with it, because when they came into the high school level, from baseball, Cincinnati did, and offered me a per month per diem or whatever it was then, and to play in baseball for them in the summer, and then they said they would actually, pay the part of it to help go to school and all that. But I had already signed a scholarship with Southern, and I just, once I make that decision and tell somebody I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, because that's the way we were raised. Once you tell somebody that you're going to do something, and you don't back out. You go ahead and fulfill that obligation. So I came to Southern, and there I said, I was fortunate to play baseball too, and still got drafted the next 3 years in college. So, but, I made the choice to go with the Raiders because I thought I got a good deal out of it. And, I've never looked back on one way or the other. I mean, I always think about, what it might have been, if I'd have chosen the going towards the baseball route. But, I don't think it had been any difference. I'd have gave it all just in baseball, just like I did in football.
Were they offered full scholarships back then in college to?
Well, actually, no, they did not. From baseball standpoint, like I said, Southern was a small school and they didn't have a big budget then. In fact, a lot of the football coaches had to, when they started recruiting, they actually had to pay a lot of that out of their pocket. And then Coach Underwood, who took over, the year I came in, organized what they call the Big Gold Club, which is a booster club type deal where they raise money to help the coaches go out and recruit players and, bring them into Southern. And baseball, I don't think there were really any players that we had strictly on a baseball scholarship. They were. I didn't know about it because I didn't inquire about it, but it seems to every year Coach Taylor, who was the baseball coach then, he would actually have tryouts from, kids on school and things like that. And he picked his team from that, and we was a scrappy little bunch, I can tell you that. But I don't think there's really anybody on a full scholarship in baseball.
Were you better a pitcher or a kicker?
Both. Like I said, I don't know. I could throw the ball. I was averaging 98 miles an hour.
Whoa.
But I had real good control. I knew exactly where the ball was going, instead of just rearing back and letting it go, I could position that ball where I wanted to. And, football, that was something, extra to do, during the game and during practice because we needed it. My key role at Southern was starting free safety. That's what I played. And but I happened to be able to do all the kicking phases of it, and so I just continued with it. Never set out to be just a punter. And of course, now we're getting drafted in '73 by the Raiders. As strictly as a punter. Well, I knew my job, even though I was still geared to doing other things, during the course of the game than just kicking, but. I got myself accustomed to just doing one thing, but I got involved with a lot more from the standpoint of winding up being the third string quarterback with the Raiders. I got involved in practice. I wanted to be involved because that way in a game situation, I knew what was going on and knew what we were trying to do against certain teams, and that kept me more into the game, in tune with it. And I think really too, it made me become more acceptable with the other, older veterans, we had on the team at that time, because, I guess they looked at the standpoint of, hey, this kid's more than just a punter. He's actually a player.
He's a punter. He's a punter could actually tackle. That's a rarity because usually they shy away from contact.
Well, who? No, me?
No,
man. I wanted to get my head stuck in there.
Not you, but the average punter.
Yeah, well, I know that, and that, of course, that stems from playing defense, and you're geared to do that, and your body's trained to do that, and it's hard to break something that's been doing something for so many years. It's hard to do that, but see, there again. That made the players accept me more because, hey, I'd go out there and bust somebody. I wouldn't shy away from it, believe me, because it made me mad somebody even got a yard return on me. And so, I'd do the same thing again if I was young enough. I'd show these young ones how to do something.
How did you get started as a punter and a place kicker?
Oh, it was just something you did growing up as a young teenager, not a teenager, but a young kid, about 6 years old. You're out in the backyard playing around with different balls, and depending on what season was in, I didn't want to stay in the house, still don't. I'd rather be outside doing something constructive. So I just go out there a lot of times by myself and, punt in the fields and behind the house and break windows and, all that good stuff that kids do, and then get your butt tore up when Dad got home. But it's just something that it was I guess it would have to do, I could give all the credit to the good Lord for giving me all that ability to do anything and do it well. I don't know if you'd call it a natural or what you might call it, but I was able to understand the mechanics behind what I was trying to do at that particular time, and I understood how to take those mechanics and form them and make them a lot easier and a lot better to fit me. And that way, that's just like playing golf. I just picked up a set of golf clubs and started playing. And I finally got it down to a scratch. I said, well, I'm not going to make a living doing it. I might as well put the clubs up. But I had accomplished what I was after. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Must be nice.
Well, the good Lord was good to me, and He still is. Even though this old body don't move fast anymore, and it takes a lot more Ben Gay at nighttime, and but it works.
Do you think there was any other owner other than L. Davis that would have drafted a punter in the first round, being the renegade he was?
I really don't think they would. But Al was a pretty insight guy on what the needs were and what the fit would be, and you got to fill those gaps in there. You might want to say to where it wasn't working as far as to winning the championships and things. So he would just look at things that a lot of people just kind of, I guess you call it oversight. Because somebody on the team played another position, they could do it. But I think Al understood the importance of the kicking game. And, of course, you look back over the years, the Raiders always have had great special teams, whether it was the kicking game or it was return. They put a lot of emphasis on that because the importance of a game is determined on the amount of field position that you gain during the course of the 60 minutes, whether it's running the ball back on a kickoff or a punt or the punter, or, making a long directional, type kick to gain some field position back. So it all goes hand in hand.
And the coach when you joined the Raiders was John Madden. What was his reaction to seeing I got a punter as a first-round draft pick?
Well, I think you've heard, a couple of times, through the years, John doing interviews, about me and stuff like that. It was he said that's the first time sitting in the draft and everybody agreed on one thing. It's the first time it was a unanimous decision. So I think John understood the importance of that too. And, but, once I got with the Raiders and, started, doing the spring practice, training camps, kicking the ball, well, John told one of the managers, Bobby Romansky, go in there and get him a stopwatch. Well, they brought it out and it was still in the package. So apparently they'd never used it before. And then he opened the package up and he was sitting there and he said, how you work this damn thing? So maybe that was the first time. I don't know because, I was hitting it so high and long and all that. But then I guess he come to realize, hey, look, we got us a weapon here. Let's just, find somebody to get on the field to help him control that weapon. And we did. We took a lot of pride in it. I took a lot of pride in it. And the guys that were up front protecting me and then covering after the ball was punted, they took a lot of pride in it. And that's why we were so successful all those years and made a lot of playoff games and won a lot of championships and Super Bowls because that other third part of that, the Raiders were dominating too. So, it makes a big difference.
You had to be good. You were the MVP in that college All-Star game.
Which I had forgotten for a while, but then I got reminded about it. But, there again, everybody to me is an MVP regardless of what your position is and what your game plan is or whatever. But, the kickers and the punters too, they are MVPs. It just doesn't get recognized a lot. I was very proud of that, but I was also proud of the class of '73 that came out. I mean, if you got Burt Jones there, I mean, God, you got John Hanna, who was, every one of those guys on that All-Star team. I think 3/4 of them now are in the Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. So we had a great class that year, and we gave the Dolphins fit. They only won 6-3, and so that tells you something about the class of '73.
Definitely. Were you ever tempted to go up to Madden and tell him, I'm a pretty good safety?
Well, yeah, I tried that for 2 years, and I didn't get no results out of it. But in fact, I used to get fussed at. I mean, not in the way you really think about it. I mean, he kind of, get on to me once in a while, during a game or whatever. But I think all that was just a front to say, hey, look to the other players, look, I've got to get on him because he's not supposed to be doing this. But I know deep down inside, and I know he'll tell you the same thing. He enjoyed watching me do it too. And, the opposing team didn't really like it because now they got to have me accounted for. Whereas normally you didn't have the punters or the kickers when I was doing the kickoffs too, accounted for on that blocking scheme on their return. So they had to put somebody on me. So that made everybody one-on-one. And, of course, I always outdid mine. I mean, he couldn't block me anyway. But, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I know John enjoyed watching it too.
When I think of you punting, I think of hang time. I just think of the ball going up in the air and
right.
almost freezing up there as it travels downfield.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you focused on, or is that something that just sort of came natural with your kicks?
That was natural with the kicks, but I found out ways to, with each punt, as I was a little bit younger growing up, to make it better. Because I knew I could probably get it a little bit higher and maybe a little bit longer. So I'd focus on the position of the ball and my foot to make it feel better and more solid at impact and all that. But without taking away from the real objective, what I was trying to do, I didn't change very little. I would change or within each punt to make it better. But having that distance and hang time at the same time was a natural thing that I was able to accomplish all these years, and I was very flexible, and which is a lot of people have great talents. They got great ability to do certain things a little bit better than the other things, but yet they know how to take them and blend them in that mix to make it work better. And I think that's one of the deals that helped me so much, is that I was very flexible and able to get the extension on my leg so far above my head after each punt. And I had people wanting to know if I took ballet. Hell, I ain't took ballet. You know what it was. You ain't gonna catch me in them dadgum tutus. But no, I was very fortunate that way too, and it's just that one gift package that the good Lord gave me. Now,
in the 1976 Pro Bowl in the Louisiana Superdome, you hit the video screen there. Were you aiming for that?
Well, I hadn't even thought about it until I walked out there, and but I mean, I pretty much knew I could hit it. But when that game playing, I walked out there and and I called whatever we were going to do, which way I was going to punt it, and all this, and the other 10 guys, they turned and walked towards the line of scrimmage. Well, I got my 15 yards from the line of scrimmage there, and I just happened to be on the 2-yard line, and I was standing there, kind of waiting, and everybody gets set and all this, and I just looked up and I said, I'm at the right angle, I know. I said, I'm gonna try this thing to myself, and I didn't even tell the guys. And then Jim Tunney, you know him. He was the head ref for many years. Great friend of mine and great friend of all pro football players. He was standing there, and I heard him say, "Ray, you gonna try this, aren't you?" I said, "Yep." So but there again now, trying and making it happen is two different things. That in that situation, you got to have everything just working together. You got to keep yourself under control with your steps. You got to make good solid contact with your foot. So when I hit it, I knew I hit it good, believe me. And the ball released from my foot and took off. I always followed it off my foot up to the height of it. And I just kept watching, and that ball hadn't even peaked yet. It was still climbing. And I said, uh-oh, here we go. And sure enough, the ball hit the top edge of the dadgum screen and fell right down. So we had to come back and do that again. And I don't think the players were very happy, because majority of the cover team were guys that pretty much on their regular teams never play, punt cover.
Right.
So they wasn't what you call too happy there, But now here's the funny thing. The second punt, I almost hit it again. And if I'd have hit it again, I'd have just left the Superdome. I'd have went to the dressing room, got dressed or something. But no, that was just one of those games in a Pro Bowl where it's a fun game. It's an important game, but yet it's the last game until, the following July and August and all that. And the rules are a little bit different. So I had the opportunity to try that without, technically getting the ball blocked, because that's one thing they couldn't do. The only time they could really hit me is when I actually fumbled the ball or a bad snap, So I had plenty of time to take my time and hit it. And I said, well, let's go for it, see if we can do it. Because now everywhere I go, and that's usually the first thing out of people's mouths. They want to know, did you hit the roof? I said, no, I didn't hit the roof. This is not a fishing story. You know how fishing stories go. You catch a little bitty minnow, and about 25 years later, that sucker looks like a whale.
Right.
But no, I said, no, yeah, I hit the thing, but Mom said never to play inside a house anyway.
What was Al Davis like? It seems like the former Raider players love him.
They did. They were very close to Al. It's and I'm kind of this way too. Is that you read and you hear so much about a lot of people, and but you can't really judge them basically until you've been around them and conversed with them and talked with them and watch them in certain situations to really know what that person is on the inside. Al was a businessman. He was a very smart man. He knew exactly what he wanted and what to do, and he knew how to go about doing it. If he didn't, he wouldn't be so successful in all those years that he started the Raiders. And he was very, very smart from the legal wise and all that. And it's like anybody in a big corporation that have started from basically scratch and gone on to, create a dynasty, you might want to say, whether it's on the professional field of sports or it's in the corporate field of work. There are going to be things that you do that technically may not look legal or the right thing to do or the way to go about doing it, but, it usually works out. And everybody is, still in the mix and all this. And I'm sure some of the players did not really get along with him or see eye to eye. But what we did in those days is that, if you had a gripe or something with the coaches or with the owner or whatever, it was pretty much behind closed doors. It wasn't in the other players' open view and all this stuff. And they kept it kind of closed because technically that's between them two. That's like when, players come in or they wanted to renegotiate contracts and all that. Basically, nobody else knew what was going on or what they were making because they didn't want to. All we want to do is play. We want to go practice and have a week of practice and go play the game and win. And we all still stuck together, regardless. And there was no, inner distinction between the players and all that. We were just like big families, and we backed each other up, and stuff like that. So kind of like brothers. You're gonna get in a little squabble as you were kids, but you get over it. You knock it out or whatever you're gonna do, and then you pat each other off, brush each other off, and go down to the pub and have a beer. So that's just the way we were.
You had very few kicks blocked in your career. Is that a credit to the center, to you, to other teams not coming after you, or what?
I credit that all to the center and the line up front, because you got to have protection up there. You got to have guys that are dedicated and really want to block the opposing team, because they're going to try to block it. The centers are 50% of a punt or a kick anyway. I was fortunate enough, basically all the way through my career, from high school, college, and into the pros, having great centers. I could probably count on one hand all the bad snaps I've had, but you're going to have bad snaps because people are going to make mistakes, but you don't want them to reoccur a lot. And I never had to worry about where the ball is going to go on the ground, or it's going to go to my right, or it's going to my left, or it's going to go here, or whatever. When we practice during the week, the centers always want to know, where do you want it, and I tell them where I want the ball, and very rare that it would be offline. So that makes my job a lot easier, where I don't have to worry about it. But yet too, what I had to worry about was trying to generate too much power into the ball, which in turn makes the steps that I take a little bit longer than I should. So, but with that kind of, security up there in front, and knowing that the ball is going to be there where I want it, I didn't have to really rush it. I didn't really have to overpower it. I just did my thing, but I kept it under 2 seconds, and that's fast enough from the time it's snapped to it leaves my foot. I mean, anybody can, go without getting one block, but you're going to have that to happen sometimes. There's going to be maybe a missed block or a missed assignment or something up front, but there again, I don't hold any grudges against that, and I know it's going to happen, and because there again, we're only human, and sometimes you're going to make mistakes, and but I made a lot of mistakes and stuff like that, but I took those mistakes and kind of analyzed what I had performed wrong or what I did wrong, and then I'd correct it, and I wouldn't do it again, which in turn made me better.
You played in 3 Super Bowls. Was there one that stood out as your favorite?
No, not really. Not really. All games that we played, where it was a regular season game, preseason, regular season, playoff, and all that, was basically an important game. Yeah, the Super Bowl is the major one. That's why they call it Super. Because it's like state championships in high school. It's like winning the BCS Bowl, in college and all that. That's the goal you set at the beginning of the season, and that's what you try to reach. And once you get to that pinnacle and that level, to the Super Bowl, well, you don't really need to treat it any more important. Because technically it is a very important game, but technically there's no other game until the next following season. So why really change your whole complexity of what you accomplished during the year to get to that one level, and then you change everything? Hey, go home with the girl you took to the dance because you've been dancing pretty good all year long. So why change partners then? So we just treat it as another day at the office. That's the way we treat it. We didn't change anything.
Now, you had a career punting average of 42.4 yards. Do you ever say to yourself, if I played for the Broncos in Denver, I probably could have averaged about 50 plus?
Well, I mean, yeah, you could. Technically, you could because of the thin air. But we played Denver every year. In Denver, and it seems that in general and overall, just looking back and kind of reminiscing about the years and stuff, is that I didn't really, have that great an average in Denver. But then again, what you got to look at too, you got to look at the team you're on, how consistent is the offense, moving the ball, when we have it. So technically, majority of my punts were not what you would call having to go a long ways with it. But then as years, transgress on to, my end of my career, is that I had to change something. And what I had to change is because, one, the return guys were getting faster. They were getting better. The return scheme were getting better. So I had to come up with another scheme myself, you might want to say, is, now why do I want to kick this down the middle of the field all the time and as far as I can? That's only going to hurt me and hurt the team in general. So what I changed was, from not going down the middle of the field no more, I changed to going two directional, where there's punting it out of bounds inside the 20, or punting it out of bounds, before the 20, depending on where I was, or hanging the ball between the numbers and the sidelines to eliminate a lot of return area for the return guy and all this. So it got to be a strategy with me, and it got to be very important to my team, because they knew when I told them I was going somewhere with it, I was going to punt it here or punt it there. They didn't have to worry about chasing the ball all over the field once they got down there. They knew that ball was going to be in that position or in that area. So it made their job a lot easier. So, when you got to change, you got to change. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you learn to adapt to different years and the changing in football in general.
How hard was it to have to wait that long to get in the Hall of Fame?
It was very hard. I mean, all these years, and there are guys out there that's been in that position longer than I have, and which they are entitled. They pretty much need to be into the Hall of Fame, but it's tough. But you learn after a couple times or three times or whatever, you learn to kind of, I wouldn't call it adapt to, the way it's going and, things of this nature. You learn to accept it. And the old phrase is, well, we'll just wait the next year and see what happens. And, of course, then the more it comes and the more it does not happen, it gets a little more frustrated. But you kind of look at it, well, it's not the end of the world. Because I did not get it. I would like for it to happen the first time around, which everybody would, but sometimes those things did not happen. But, that old phrase, good things are worth waiting for. It will sooner or later come to you, and you just hopefully that you're still around when it does happen.
Right.
So, I mean, that's like, that in the hotel room in New York that Saturday, we, of course, all of them had to be in their room before 5 o'clock. And then, you sit there and 5:30 comes, and that's when they're supposed to, at time it was supposed to start. That's when they were called. And you're sitting there and it goes 5:35 and it gets 5:40 and getting close to 5:45. And you think, well, maybe not this year, but, it did. At 5:42, it happened.
Wow.
And I almost not answered the phone. And the reason I'm saying this, when I got the call back in, last September, maybe, from the Veterans Committee, for the Hall of Fame,
mm-hmm.
and we was talking to, and they were saying, well, now look, it says, now, I will be calling you. Now, this was Joe Boyington, his name. But anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I put his number in my cell phone, which is a 330 number, is the area code for Canton. So I get up there, and we're sitting there in the room, and, I had already just kind of calmed down. I took a deep breath. I said, well, maybe it's not going to, happen this year. And I hadn't really got it out of my thought when the phone rang. Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the phone, and the area code was 714, which is California. Now I'm thinking, yep, that's probably a reporter or something, you know. Then I got to think, I just reached down and picked it up. And that was about the third ring, and I picked it up, and Dave Baker, who is now the new, president of the Hall of Fame, it was him. He said, Ray? I said, yeah. He said, he introduced himself. He said, I'm Dave Baker I'm the president of the Hall of Fame. He says, I personally wanted to make this call to you and let you know that you are now a member of the class of 2014. I said, Dave, you kidding me, aren't you? I asked him 3 times before I finally hit me. So, you wait all these years and then that phone call comes in and you don't know whether to really accept it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But my legs got kind of weak, and I just kind of sat back in the chair and tried to let it soak in. And it really took about a week or week and a half before it really soaked in. It was after I got back here. So, but now it's all reality, and I'm in there, and it's hard to explain how I feel, but to be now placed beside all the other legends throughout the years that are now have been in the Hall of Fame, and just knowing that that's the final game. That's there's no more records to set. There's no more games to win or championships or whatever. That's somewhere we can sit for all the ages to see, and I am proud to be that. But when I got back here, Southern Miss, I went and spoke to what we call a meet and greet to some of the fans and all that, and then at the basketball game at halftime on that Friday night afterwards, and I told them, and I tell everybody that I talk to or speak to at the group, I said, even though my name will be enshrined in the Hall of Fame, through the ages, I said, it has my name on it, but this is for y'all, because y'all the one that stood behind me. And, my supporters, my friends, and, kind of keeping that push going, if you know what I mean. And I said, it's for you. It's technically mine, but it's not mine. It's yours.
You're the first Southern Miss guy to get in. You beat Brett Favre.
Right. Well, Brett's going to go in what, 2 years or 3 years? How long has he been out? 2 years?
Well, you never know when he's going to unretire.
Well, that's true. That's why I had to stop and think a minute. I don't ever know what he's going to do. But he got 3 more years, I know, and and I know. I mean, that's pretty much going to be a shoe-in. So he and I will be, in there together. And but yeah, I'm really proud to be the first one from Southern Miss to go, because I believe black and gold and black and silver. So I'm going to help Southern, and it's going to be a great boost to Southern too, from the standpoint of recognition now as far as the achievements from the athletic field and all that. Of course, everybody knows Brett and all that. And I let it go. I mean, I fit and tell, well, hell, you just don't know. I was here before Brett, and I taught him everything he knew for 3 years. Yeah, which I did. I mean, I volunteer coach out here for 3 years, his last 3 years. And I knew then what everybody knows now. That how great he was going to be and how of a competitor he was and is. But I'd never let him know that. He always wanted to wear my Super Bowl ring. And I said, well, Brett, what you want him for? He said, well, me and a couple of guys, we're going down to such and such a place. I said, well, not my ring, you're not going. and you're not taking my 4x4 either. So, he was a great kid, still is, and I don't see him very often around here. I mean, he's kind of like me. He just, he does his thing. And, he stays out on his west side of town, and I'm on my south side of town, and we run into each other once in a while. But I don't bother him. I don't really want to bother him. just let him. He's been there. He's done that, and it's time for him to sit back and relax and enjoy life now. And that's what I do. I want to do what I want to do. I mean, some of the things I hadn't done, I want to do it, and that's why I'm just be myself.
When are they gonna right the wrong and get your former coach Tom Flores in? I'm so tired of hearing about Tony Dungy, the first minority coach to win a Super Bowl, should win the Hall of Fame. Last I checked, Tom Flores is a minority, and he won 2.
I understand that, and that's one of the objectives now. Starting, is now we're going to start campaigning for Tom, and we got a bunch of them technically needs to go. We got Cliff Branch sitting there. I mean, we got Jim Plunkett sitting there. I mean, we got a ton of them there that, as far as records concerned and this and that and the other, records are fine, but I was not what you call a firm believer in records. I couldn't really tell you what I had. Because it wasn't important at the time if we didn't win. And, it's an indication of, personally my achievement, but it wasn't really my achievement. It was those 10 guys up in front of me. They're the one had a bigger deal to do with it than I did. And, so, just because I didn't have a high average or a high or net or whatever, that wasn't any indication I was bad. There was a reason behind that. And but that's like, Tom. Yeah, Tom is great. I mean, he's great. He should be in there. And he was very intelligent. And of course, he was back there with John as our offensive coordinator. And so he's been around a while the block, and when he had an opportunity to step forward, I knew he was going to be a successful coach, just the way he was with the players. That was the key to it. It's a player-coach relationship, just like John had. And there was no changing. I mean, we didn't have to change anything. We just kept the same flow going. And he was a brilliant offensive coach, and he was a brilliant head coach. And he knew, how to handle the players and all that without getting upset and and doing this and doing that, screaming and hollering. He just talked about the different problems and what we need to do and how we need to handle things. And once we come to an agreement or whatever, and then we left it alone and went on. So, yeah, we're going to have a big campaign for a lot of those guys.
Now, I know in college you had a 93-yard punt. Is there one favorite punt that you had in your entire career?
That'd be kind of hard to do, wouldn't it? I don't know which one would be the best. I mean, they were all the best. I've had some long ones. I've had some short ones. I think the best of it was probably in my last few years that I was playing, with the Raiders. That's when we made that move down to L.A. I want to say it was about 85, somewhere in there. That was the year I had about 35 inside the 20. I didn't have very much return yardage on me that year. That was the year that I had to make that transition, to focusing more on the corners and things of this nature. So, the 93 at Ole Miss was there again. That's just when everything was working. When you're backed up in your end zone, your first objective in the goal is to catch the ball and get at least to the 50. Lo and behold, how the hell did I know it was going 100 yards? But it just happens, and those things happen for a reason. The one that we had in 80, we was playing not Kansas City. We was playing San Diego down there. That was the year we went as a wild card and won. We beat Philadelphia in the Super Bowl that year.
Right.
We were down in San Diego for the AFC Championship, and it was a close game. And I don't know. When I punted, the ball went 73 yards. I know that, but it almost went out of bounds on the one. And then that really put a needle in San Diego's offense. Air Coryell and all that, and so, there are a lot of punts that has made a difference, and they've changed the field position around to, get negative into the plus side of momentum, and that, a couple of those, So, I mean, I've had a bunch of them that are great.
I know a game that stands out for me, being from Chicago, was that game against the Bears in '84 when I think the Bears knocked out 3 of your quarterbacks. I want to say Rusty Lish, David Hum, maybe David Wilson.
Well, Plunkett didn't even dress out that game.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was on IR. Mark Wilson was the starting quarterback, and then we had brought in Dave Hum, who we drafted, years before out of Nebraska. And of course, they had me. And but yeah, that was a very brutal game and a bloody game because there was, McMahon got hurt, and they were falling on both sides of the ball like flies. I mean, it looked like the MASH unit on MASH. Taking the Army cot and taking them off the field every time they get up. We had Dave Hum got knocked out, and Mark was already in the locker room because I think he had hurt his thumb or something on the helmet of somebody. So Tom and I had already got ready. We were discussing to call the play, and of course Mark came back out. So I was had 1 foot on and 1 foot off. You know what I'm saying?
Did you want to go in? Did you want to go in against that defense, or you wanted no part of it?
Well, it wouldn't make no difference to me. Made no difference to me. I mean, I'd have gave it my best. Heck, I might have gotten knocked out too. Who knows? But we had other objectives to worry about then. What we were going to roll that pocket, man. I'm going to tell you, and give the quarterback time to throw that ball.
Did you ever not like punting the ball after Lester Hayes touched it? Because I heard that he destroyed more footballs with that stickum.
Look, it wasn't only Lester. It was Blitnikoff, or you can look at Mark Van Egan was the worst to me. I mean, when he was running that ball, he'd get up after making a run or something, the ball still be stuck to his chest. Had so much daggum stickum on it. I mean, he had that pine tar, man. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean, it seemed like ever so often, they took like lighter fluid and washed the balls down after every play because they had so much pine tar on it. Well, every once in a while they would miss a spot, and for some reason though, one of my fingers would always touch that spot when I got ready to release the ball. Man, I told Mark, would you get away from me? Go down to the other end where you belong. That's where the running backs are. Let me stay up here by myself, man. I mean, it's like the wind blowing pollen. It'd blow that stuff all over you. But no, it didn't bother me that much. I mean, hey, that's what they wanted to do, and, let them do it. But Lester did kind of abuse it a little bit, and it looked like he was having some kind of seizure when it was dripping out from under his helmet. So, I mean, and Freddie used a whole jar of that pine tar before every game. So
did you ever go to up to your coach? Ever go up to the coaches and say, I'm a pretty good athlete. You should let me run out of punt formation every once in a while, or pass out of punt formation?
Well, we always had that audible to. If it was there, but it had to be there first, the look of the defense. And we always had that audible. And, I mean, they always say on the sideline when we went out, they say, just be alert. And what that means is, if they're in that alignment up from the return team, if they in a certain look with a certain player somewhere, then the option would be there. And we ran a couple. Threw a couple, You don't want to do it too much because it becomes too obvious, and but you want to at least run it maybe once or twice in the preseason to kind of put the look or doubt in the upcoming season. The teams look at those films and they'll say, "Hey, wait a minute now, they don't normally do this, but there's a chance they might." And The only time we audible off, it was against Seattle up in the Kingdome one year. I think it was a Monday Night Football game. end guy. I can't think of his name back there then, but anyway, he was real quick off that corner, and he would just come off the corner and just lay himself out, trying to block it. And so the ball was about midfield, somewhere around midfield, and Tom, said, look, he said, if he's sitting out there and you see that, go ahead and catch the ball and go through your thing, but let him lay out. I said, okay. Man, I was excited, boy. I was ready to go. So the ball snapped, and sure enough, I could look over there pre-snap, and he had his weight forward on his downhand, so that tells me he's coming. And the ball was snapped, and I took my time a little bit and took about a step forward, and sure enough, he laid out, tried to block it, and I pulled it back in. Hey, I made 25 yards on that run, man. I'd have still been running if the edge of the field hadn't got so close to me.
So who's gonna snap the microphone to you at the Hall of Fame?
Who's gonna introduce me?
Yes.
John Madden.
And why
have you started working on your speech?
More or less, I've tried, but I got so much else to do. I'm trying to kind of, half do my job here at Southern, then the other half I'm trying to get certain things, put together and then sent up to Canton. We got to have it up there, but I'll get it written. That's no big deal. They just told me I couldn't talk as much as I normally used to. So I said, how long is that? He said, 8 minutes. I said, well, you better let me go last then.
Save the best for last.
I'll get it done. It's just tough, to sit and write it down because you think of so much, especially the people that's been such a big influence in your life and your career and all that. And of course, majority of those that have been very much influence on me are not here no more. And so that's going to be a little tough, when it comes to that time up there. But, I'll endure it and I'll get through with it, and knowing very well that, all four of them are not with us, but they're looking, believe me. And of course, my mom and dad's gone, and of course Al, he's passed away a couple of years ago, right. And my head coach here passed away about a year and a half ago. Well, it's actually been 1 year since February. So, and they played a big inspiration, influence on me, and it's just going to be tough. But like I said, I'll get by with it.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. See what I mean? They only gave me 8 minutes.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
You think? All right, look, y'all have a great day, my friends.
You too.
All righty.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.